the way I'm looking at it, and it's totally outside the box. I mean, we both...
wait a second. Again, I'm just trying to prove to you why it makes no sense.
But I'm going to give my reason why I think it's good.
Okay, tell me why it's good. Go ahead. So let me get it. So you're now going to start a top flight starter well, wait a second. What about when that guy starts who's a good starter?
Okay,
who's going to pitch in the second inning? He has to warm up for 20 minutes alongside this guy. And now what happens when he comes in the game and he's down 4-0?
Okay, Mike, can I just get my point across? If you look at, it's obviously an idea that's outside the box.
It's stupid.
But if you look at the statistics, and we all do now, statistically speaking, the first inning is an inning where the most runs are scored. So if you brought in some sort of a good quality pitcher, and once again, it's never been done before, so you have to...
Wait a second. He's not a quality pitcher.
I'm not saying... You're just using Romo. It could be...
Well, wait a second. So you're telling me... I'm asking you, in your way of doing this, what kind of pitcher are you using? Are you using a top-level starter? Or are you using your best reliever? Who are you using to do this?
I'm using a top-level reliever.
A top-level reliever in a 0-0 game in the first inning.
That's correct.
So when he leaves after one inning at 0-0 and has had no impact on the game, you don't have him to close the game now.
I think that is an impact on the game.
It's not having an impact if it's 0-0.
2 runs in the first inning is...
What do you mean you don't know how do you know your team's going to score?
How do you know they're scoring in the ninth inning, Mike, if you have a reliever?
Your closer's job is to shut down. You already have a lead. He has an impact. His job is to win the game.
I'm just thinking outside the box.
Well, wait a second. I'm just showing you why it's stupid. Because why would you bring a guy who's a quality starter or a quality reliever into a 0-0 game for one inning?
Because the first inning is one of the
No, it's not. It's no more important than any other inning.
That's like saying the ninth inning is no more.
Wait a second. In the ninth inning, you only bring your closer in when you have a lead. You don't bring him in every game. You bring him in when you have a lead.
I realize that, Mike. I've been following
baseball. Well, then why would you bring him into a 0-0 game and waste him?
You're not wasting.
You are wasting them. You have no more chance to win if it's 0-0 in the top of the second.
The way the starters are used now, what's your typical starter pitch now? 5 innings?
So what? You're bringing a pitcher in and using him for 1 inning. And what about the guy you warmed up against him who's a starter and that guy tonight gives up 3 runs? Are you still going to bring your top starter into the game trailing 3-0? So tonight you start Romo and you warm up your best starter and it's 3-0 the other team. Are you bringing him in at the top of the second inning or not?
Yes.
Down 3-0, you're bringing him in the game.
Yes.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. When he's got 30 starts, you bring him in trailing 3-0. He just ruined his start. Some ideas make no sense. This idea has no value. You're coming into a 0-0 game. Now, are we eventually going to get to a point where there are going to be teams that, except when they're pitching exceptional starters, they throw 2 guys with the plan that they will pitch 3 innings apiece and get you to the bullpen that way? Yes, that is going to happen. You're already seeing it happen where they ask some guys to go 4 innings. You are going to get to a point where you are going to see everybody but your top starters. You're going to see times where you see a 3-inning starter and and then a 3-inning reliever, and then hopefully you're into your bullpen. That will happen with all but your best starters. But to use a guy who is an ordinary pitcher, you're not going to use your best reliever in that role because he doesn't impact the game enough at 0-0 in the first inning. Plus, when they know you do this, they are going to intentionally take pitches to get the guy out of the game when you use him multiple days like this. Plus, how many days do you think a guy can pitch? If the guy throws 30 pitches, is he coming back tomorrow and doing it again? If not, you got another guy set to do that? How many guys you got in that role? It doesn't make any sense. Like I said, it's arbitrary. And it's outside the box, but it's arbitrary and it doesn't serve a purpose. There are too many ways to shoot holes in it. Are we moving away from 6-inning starters and 5-inning starters? No, we're getting more of those guys, so that's true. But you can't do this on days where you have a good starter because you have to warm your starter up with this guy. And that means your starter's committed to coming in the game in the second inning. What if that guy gave up 4 runs? You're going to bring your best starter in down 4-0? You're mitigating his start. You don't know what day Sergio Romo's going to give up runs or not give up runs. Hey, it's outside the box. So every idea is outside the box if it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't mean they're all right. This is a dumb idea. Because it's the first inning. And there's too many times where this will just get you to the second inning in the same vein. And you remember, you have to warm a pitcher up to pitch the other innings. If you're going to ask unless you're going to pitch a one-inning guy in every inning, if you're going to start a starter with him, you are going to actually have to, warm a guy up like he's starting. So listen, we can see guys try everything, and I guess we will. But to me, that one's just silly. You're not going to put your best, and if you were going to take your best closer and do that with him as an opener, quote-unquote opener, and bring him into a 0-0 game, how is he impacting the game if all he's doing is at best leaving 0-0? Or so your team scores a couple of runs at the day you do score a couple of runs, and he gives you a 0. So he gives you a head start, but he doesn't give you a game. You still got to bring another pitcher and take care of 8 innings. He doesn't close anything. The reason closer means close the door, win the game. That would be like saying, I'm going to bring Chapman in the 9th inning of every game, whether I'm winning or losing. What would be the point? What sense would that make? You're going to bring him in a game you're down 5? The top of the 9th? I mean, how would that make any sense? That's what basically you're doing here. You're not giving a guy a role. You're basically saying arbitrarily, I'm just going to pitch him in the first inning. No matter what. No matter what the circumstances are. That's why it's arbitrary. But if you want to get a little outside the box, I do think you'll see a day where some teams will go to starter by committee, except when they have a big pitcher. And I also think you'll see the day where teams are carrying more pitches because the rosters will be expanded and teams will carry, I believe, 15 pitches on their roster because they don't have enough pitches. They don't have enough arms. I think right now teams should be able to carry a taxi squad where they can deactivate 2 pitches every night from their squad, deactivate 2 of their starters from their squad who aren't useful players that night because you don't have a 25-man roster every night if you have a couple of starting pitchers. They aren't on your roster. So deactivate them for the night, the 2 guys who pitched yesterday and the day before, and then still have a whole staff. So you have more relievers and you can attack the game more that way and bring more pitches into the game. I think that eventually could happen with a taxi squad. And I do think teams could use 3-inning pitcher. But the idea of just starting a guy as an opener and then using him the next night, you have to still start a guy up against him. You're going to do that to a guy who might be a starter? What if you put him in a hole? You've devalued the start. So that's a weird one. It really is. It's a really strange one. Brendan in Scarsdale. What's up, Brendan?
Yeah, hey, Mike. How you doing?
What's happening?
You can hear me through. Hey, I'm really interested in your opinion of how the NFC East broke down last year, especially with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Never really got the pleasure of hearing your takeaway from the Super Bowl. Do you think the Eagles are like a dynasty, like I am a Cowboys fan, but say Cowboys, Niners, Steelers, or is this more like the Rams of the 90s?
Are the Eagles a dynasty?
Well,
can we see them do something back-to-back years before we even want to have the discussion?
Hey, that's fine with me. I'm with you. Do I think the Eagles are going to be a dynasty? No, they don't have the look. I mean, what I would say to them is, I'd like to see a way that you could possibly go back into a Super Bowl and win playing defense on that level.
The defense played in that game was avert your eyes defense. That's what was played in that game that day. That was there were more yardage in that game last year than any other game played in the NFL last year.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, think about that.
So
think about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, but the NFC East, if you look at it, this thing's very competitive every year.
Oh, I think the NFC East is competitive. I just don't understand what the Redskins are doing. The other three teams, I think the Giants are going to very much bounce back. I think the Cowboys are dangerous, although they, really have to improve defensively. I think the Eagles are a very talented team right now in terms of a lot of weapons, in what they have. So, and I do think the Giants are going to improve a lot, although their schedule is tough. I would say the Washington's the team I don't really have a handle on right now. Josh in New Paltz, what's up, Josh?
Good afternoon, Mike.
What's happening?
Great to have you back.
Thank you.
Those last couple of calls were emblematic of why we need you, those of us who commute 2 hours back and forth to the city every day. But James Harden, real briefly, and you did a great job with Bill Simmons, and I hope you guys continue to do that with the back and forth you guys have. It's
right.
phenomenal.
Yeah, we will. Thank you. We like doing it, so yes.
He's been pretty embarrassing throughout this series. I mean, he's not the class of the NBA the way it looks playing against those guys on Golden State.
Never was. And can finally people admit what we've known for years, and that Chris Paul, who never does anything in the playoffs, another guy. I mean, is he overrated or what?
So overrated. I mean, they got two losers on that team.
I'm not trying to pick on those guys. They're nice players, but we've seen in the playoffs what they become. They've never had playoff success. They're not having playoff success again. And listen, they're good players, and some players are just not built to be guys who are going to perform as champions. To compare him to LeBron James, come on. Now listen. We can give LeBron James the MVP every year, and Bill wasn't saying that LeBron James wasn't the best player. He clearly was saying he was the best player. Our argument was, I thought LeBron committing to the regular season the way he did this year meant that he had such an inferior team that the fact that Houston had the best season, which they clearly did, and that Harden was the leader of the team that had the best record, was the best team in the regular season, he deserved it for that standpoint. I felt that LeBron committed all 82 games, and without him, that team would have won 20 games. That's why I would have taken the opportunity to give LeBron an MVP, which people have tried not to do in the regular season in recent years. I would have probably given him what I thought would probably be his last MVP. That's why I was for giving it to him this year. And just to be fair, Bill was not saying that LeBron wasn't the best. He clearly was not arguing that. He knows LeBron is the best. He was not in any way arguing that Harden was a better player. Not at all. He just felt that Harden deserved the MVP, which I did not. Andrew in Scarsdale, what's up, Andrew?
Hey, Mike, you're on the ball about LeBron. That team's nothing without him. If there's any year to give it to him, and as opposed to not giving it to someone else, it's him.
And they'll probably, and listen, they'll probably give it to Harden just because they don't like to give it to LeBron. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I thought they should give it to LeBron this year. I know the three finalists are Davis, LeBron, and Harden, but I won't be surprised when they give it to Harden because I think they really have decided years ago they didn't want to give LeBron any more MVPs.
Yeah, sort of like the old Jordan rule.
It happens. It does happen. It gets to a point. What's on your mind?
Back to the NFL. It's way too early, but what do you think about ratings for next year? You think they tick up?
Good question. I don't know.
You get better teams or better seasons for sure from the Cowboys and the Giants.
What caused it last year? Do you think the anthem and the social issues were a big factor or a smaller factor in the? Is it a case of too many different things on TV and the fact that it was just a bad year in the NFL, or is it the case that the social issues, the not standing for the national anthem and stuff like that became a bigger issue with fans and really impacted the league? That's the question. Did that impact the ratings? I think it did. The question is to what extent?
I think saturation is definitely a problem too. You got games on,
too many,
3-4 days a week sometimes.
Too many. Plus, they put. You know what else they do too, Andrew? They take advantage of you. They give you bad games in prime time and expect you to watch it with a feverish, intensity. But they gave you a bad game. If you gave people good games, if you gave them a really marquee matchup, and that's where I would allow them with all primetime schedules. Now, this is tricky, but this I would do. On the all primetime schedules, I would allow them flexibility. Not every week, maybe every second week, even a rotation every third week, but I would allow them some flexibility so that they could move games, because you know that it's impossible to predict who's going to have a season-ending injury at quarterback. There's always going to be some teams that tank out of nowhere. There's always going to be some teams that come out of nowhere. So from that standpoint, I would allow the primetime schedule some flexibility if I wanted to improve ratings. 6 o'clock, WFAN in New York. WFAN FM, New York. Here is Mr. Met.